So
we'll do this week. Lewis gets rehired and then fired again.
Lewis is mysteriously. I might title this week's Lewis is Kidnapped. Welcome back, everybody, to the Feed Me Sports Podcast. Tonight we are a two-man band. I am your first host, Alec Roman. Joining me is my co-host Alexander Birch, and we're missing Lewis. Word on the street is he was kidnapped, thrown into a van, and told he could not return until he stopped saying racist things on our podcast.
Before anybody sends out like milk cartons with his face on it, he just was enjoying Easter break.
You don't have the milk carton big enough. I'll be honest with you right now. I won't lie to you.
2-gallon milk cartons have been released.
You gotta get those whole grain grass-fed cow milk things where it's like $10 for a quart of milk. That's the kind of carton you need.
Yeah, he's just enjoying Easter break a little early.
He's just enjoying Easter break and decided not to tell anybody that he could not do the podcast tonight. But I want to run with the idea.
Yeah, he basically was CM Punk and just walked out without anybody knowing.
Oh no, we're running with the idea that he's kidnapped. So if anyone wants news on the Mets, Rangers, or that's pretty much it. If anyone wants news on those two teams, you're gonna have to find them first, because otherwise I don't want to talk about it.
I don't care.
I'll talk about the Knicks, but it'll only be negative things, and I'll only talk about the Giants in positive light. So.
Oh, I'm right there with you. We're on the same boat. We're on the same boat there.
All right, so we'll start out tonight with the superstar shakeup that has recently happened in WWE. Instead of doing the draft this year, I guess they've voted for this very arbitrary system that people just kind of show up places. So for like 2 days, it was just a free-for-all. Wherever you wanted to go for it.
Yeah, and I've been dealing with a cold this week, so that's why my voice sounds off or jumps to high pitches at random points. I did hit puberty several years ago. This is a cold. So.
This is a residual effect. Being 22 years old, it really catches up with you kids.
Yeah, it does. This is what milk does to you. There we go. See, it just jumps octables.
It's happening already. So I was gonna ask you,
go ahead.
What do you think about this? As two guys who lived through the draft era, and where like day after WrestleMania on the Raw Super Show, you would have wrestlers face off for the right to have certain picks, who would go first, and all that stuff, and then what would they used to call them? Like, Raw would make a pick, and then SmackDown would get a pick to replace that person. I don't forget. They had like a special name for that match too, but whatever it was.
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah, one show would get a pick, another show would get a pick.
It was years ago.
Yeah.
But what is different to you about the system? Do you like it better than the old draft system? Do you think it works better? Do you think it leaves more suspense in the show to see who's going to show up when?
Yeah, I think it leaves more suspense, at least for me. It was interesting to see how they were going to do it, because I thought, is Steph and Kurt Angle going to come out with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, and were they going to, like, redraft it?
Yeah.
But it at least left the suspense, like, okay, like, who's going to show up on Raw tonight? And then, you got who showed up on Raw, who showed up on SmackDown the night after. I don't know about you, but I was a little surprised that they did it as quickly as they did. I thought they would hold off until maybe the summer or Christmas time to do this.
I think it was expected. I think coming out of the era of kind of a unified roster, but before that being a split roster where there was a draft, I think everyone kind of, without saying anything, expected there to be some sort of movement between the two rosters. And I think WrestleMania, like, you kind of, in wrestling, I think there's always these two benchmark points. There's SummerSlam and then there's WrestleMania, and they're half a year apart from each other, so you get to kind of test out where you are in that sense. But, like, for them, I think it was just an acknowledgement of, okay, we've done this split roster thing for how many months now? How's it working? Is it going to keep working? How do we make it, I don't know if you can say more fair, but to work better the way that we want it to? Because
I don't know. I just think that
problems that they had already made.
Yeah, I think that they could have stretched out the rosters that they had for a little bit longer. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
Nothing was wrong with SmackDown, and I just think Raw's issues come from their storylines, not so much the roster that they had. But, I think the additions that both shows got, the one that I have the biggest complaint about, I think, is The Miz going to Raw, The Miz and Maurice going to Raw, because I just think he's going to get buried on Raw. I mean, if you look at his character, the storylines that he had on Raw, the push that he had as a heel, he was allowed to have a much more, broader range with his storyline and what he was doing. And on Raw, they have so many heels, and I just feel like he's going to get pushed to the back. And, not everybody likes The Miz, and, he's been around for, 6, 7, 8 years, but I thoroughly enjoyed him and Maurice on SmackDown. I mean, they were poking jabs at the Cenas. I could call them the Cenas now, but
they're a unit now.
They're a unit. But I just thought that he was so much better on SmackDown, and him moving to Raw, I thought was at least questionable to me.
Yeah, no, I could agree with that, but I think we all kind of saw that coming from the heat he had with Daniel Bryan for so long.
Yeah,
I think the Miz move was probably the only move that I absolutely saw coming. Without a doubt, there was no question. Like, the Miz is leaving.
If there was a move for me that I saw coming without a doubt, it was New Day to SmackDown, because we talked about the Raw tag teams kind of being inflated with not only the Hardy Boys but the Revival coming up, so somebody had to move, and that was no surprise to see them go to SmackDown, and Charlotte go to SmackDown.
Well, two teams came over from SmackDown, came over from Raw to SmackDown. One, being very excited to see them on SmackDown. The other, I could care less. So we'll talk about who went to Raw first, because that was Monday night. So we had The Miz and Maurice, Dean Ambrose taking over the Intercontinental Championship.
Which I thought was a little surprising, because now you have all 3 members of the Shield back on the same brand.
Maybe that's the plan, though, because they have been floating this idea of a new team for Triple H, and this could be one of the ways that they put that team over. If Triple H forms this new team, forms this new super group, you could have a knockoff match at a pay-per-view where it's not officially the Shield, but just the 3 of them. And if they beat the 3 of them due to whatever,
the only thing,
other team over.
Yeah, and the 3 of us, for the couple of viewers that we have, we all loved the Shield. Well, yeah, 2 of us did. One of us was
He's not here. He's not happy. He is locked in a truck somewhere.
He was Evolution's boy toy for a while. The thing for me, at least, is if they bring back the Shield, it's going to cause such a mayhem for them to stay that I feel like if they lose, you almost immediately have to give them a rematch.
Well, I think it's not,
because imagine the draw that they're going to get. The draw that they're going to get, it's going to be, well, what was the match a year or 2 ago, the pay-per-view, where did they triple power bomb somebody through a table?
They triple power bombed Randy through a table.
Yes, that was it. And it was like, oh my God, the Shield, even if it was for 30 seconds, it was the Shield power bombed.
But think about the pop you would get if this new group, this new Evolution beat them. Maybe not, no flak jackets, no, unified theme.
Reigns will have the flak jacket.
Yeah, no one's coming to the crowd, none of that stuff. But just a 6-man tag with the 3 of them, so that Michael Cole can say, these men used to be the Shield, and
it's visions of the old Shield,
right? And then maybe that new Evolution goes on for months or whatever, and then later the Shield says, you know what, we're coming back together officially to take this team down, and then you have this big setup rematch.
WrestleMania.
If they do that match at SummerSlam, then at WrestleMania you could have this big thing that would steal the show, and that's the best part. So I don't hate the Ambrose move, but it kind of foreshadowed the Kevin Owens move. You can't have 2 mid-card titles on one show. Bray Wyatt coming over makes sense, because immediately if you just had Bray Wyatt walk in, it would be weird. I would look at you and just be like, why? He was doing so well over there. But the second he walked in to challenge Finn Balor, immediately got goosebumps. Immediately, like just.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I was texting our good friend Allie at the time, telling her because I do my weekly updates of when Finn is on TV, so Allie doesn't have to watch the whole show.
Don't put her through that 3 hours of agony.
Right, so I just tell her when Finn's on and when Seth's on, and then we're good.
And then the Hardys.
Yeah, well, the Hardys were early, so I missed them.
Yeah.
But so he comes out in a vignette, tells Finn he's coming for him right after he gets his stuff back from Randy. So it gives Finn now a match, like unlike what we said last week where Finn might be facing Kevin Owens, which is not happening. But like I am really excited about the Bray Wyatt Finn Balor matchup because I think that's a good way for Finn to reestablish his character and to just reestablish himself as a wrestler and as a threat to the rest of the Raw roster. Be coming back from such a big injury, someone like a former champion like Bray Wyatt gives him a lot of credibility if he beats him.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, just look at Wyatt's persona, the Eater of Worlds and the creepy redneck backwoods thing that he plays. And then you have Balor's Demon. I mean, I think they both kind of coincide with, the darkness and like the evil spirits or whatever. But I'm just a little concerned because I did see something Tuesday that said Balor might have another concussion. I hope that's not true.
But concussion protocol is not. I mean, it's for WWE.
It's not as severe in WWE,
right. He gets a few weeks off, so he'll just do promos. He'll be fine. He'll
be
all right. He'll
wrestle. I definitely do agree. I think that this sets up for it's a fresh rivalry. I mean, it's one we've never ever seen, so that I really like because WWE unfortunately has that stigma of running and recycling the same matches every single week and every so often. So I'm excited what they can do with it. I think this could be a rivalry that they could have for the next 2 or 3 years at least if they're smart with it.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we haven't seen for a long time on either roster is a character-driven rivalry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of that. It's kind of that Undertaker Sting that we never got. It's it's that dark backwoods pure evil sentiment, and then it's this like demon, but he's a good guy demon. He's like the Casper the Friendly Ghost of WWE characters.
He's Casper the Friendly Dead Man.
Yeah, so like it's a pretty cool look into what both characters can do, and it also gives an opportunity for Finn to go real dark but still be a face and kind of give a glimpse of what he could do even as a heel maybe 2-3 years in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree.
Alexa Bliss and Mickie James coming over, I think that immediately gives them a rivalry with each other, something that we didn't get to see through to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, but Charlotte and Tamina jumped to SmackDown, but when you look at the Raw women's roster now, I mean, you've got Bayley, Sasha. You bring over 2 big names with Bliss and Mickie. I mean, the Raw women's roster is just getting really exciting now. I mean, I'm actually kind of disappointed to see Charlotte leave because she is such a good wrestler and she plays a great heel.
But I'm excited to see her fight Becky. Because Becky,
that's true.
Becky only had really one opponent that was as athletic as her on SmackDown. Because she never faced Naomi because they're both faces. So to see, Alexa and her go at it was always entertaining. So now she's got a different athletic heel that she can go up against. And she also has that, mountain of a woman idea with Tamina now that she has to go through.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, I left out Nia, but for Raw, I mean, the Raw women's title is looking really interesting because in any case, Bliss could have it, Mickie James could have it, Bayley could have it, Sasha could have it. I mean, hell, Nia
eventually Nia's going to have it.
So yeah, I mean, that just sets up for me. Anybody who knows me knows I love Bayley, and I love what they've been doing with the women in the last year and a half, 2 years. I think this really helps Raw's women's roster. Not that it was suffering before, but you bring over 2 names with Bliss and a savvy veteran in Mickie. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do.
Right. And I think now that there's a larger number of women on that Raw roster, I think that gives Mickie – because, like we said a few weeks ago, or, I've seen her wrestle when she was in her prime, when she was really, the Mick kick was a dangerous thing, and I
Yeah,
couldn't even pull it off.
Oh God, what was that? 10 years ago. Oh,
Right. So but now
good old days.
Now I'm watching her do it, and it looks age has definitely caught up to her. So I'm hoping that she can get in there with a few more scrub opponents. The Alicia,
Yeah, I know.
The Alicia Foxes of Raw, and just to get herself going. So when she does have that match with Bliss on a pay-per-view, or she does challenge whoever for the title, she looks like the Mickie James that I know and love, and was so excited about returning. Not soccer mom Mickie James, which is what I'm seeing now, which I'm not against, but I don't want her thrown into the the prime time foreground of this division with her looking sluggish, because then it's on the other person to carry her through the match, which isn't fair to either of them.
Yeah, here's my thing. Do you have Bliss go face and Sasha go heel, or do you keep Bliss as the heel and Sasha still stay as face?
Bliss was a face in NXT, and it did not work. It just did not work.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like if you have Nia, Sasha, and Bliss as heel, and Mickie, Mickie has to be face.
Well, Mickie was face. She was turned face right before she left.
Even if she comes to Raw, she has to be face. I mean, that's the show she started on. So
yeah, so she's face. Bliss will be
there's a good balance now of
it'll be perfect.
Face, so yeah.
So I'm thinking the next few are kind of throwaway ones. They're mid-carders, but I want to talk about one in particular. Apollo Crews and Kurt Hawkins are mid-carders. That's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Hopefully Kurt Hawkins gets a few more matches, because I think he had all of
Big Show.
He had all of 2 on SmackDown, and I understand it's not the same Kurt Hawkins that were the Edgeheads and everything else, but
well, it looks like something's going to set up with Big Show after Big Show KO'd him.
Right, so I'm hoping that Kurt
that's kind of a decent mid-card match. I'll give him that.
I hope Kurt Hawkins gets a few more matches where he can kind of show off and be like, no, I'm a good wrestler. In the Indies, I reimagined myself to be good at this.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about Kalisto coming over from SmackDown, and it's kind of like a pick that's flown under the radar that I think is probably another amazing pickup for Raw, and for one reason and one reason only: he is going straight to the cruiserweight division.
Yeah, that's I don't need to elaborate. I mean, put him in the cruiserweight, he can have a big push. Just look at him, look at what he does. It's perfect fit.
The thing that killed Kalisto so much was they had him fighting Ryback, and they had him fighting Corbin. And they were just like, listen,
he's little tiny, 5'6".
You look like Rey Mysterio. We can make it work. And it was like, no, because Rey Mysterio was like ungodly good. Like Rey Mysterio was on a different level than any other human being at fighting guys 3 times his size.
Yeah, I mean,
and Kalisto's talented, but just not that talented.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see him face guys like Austin Aries and Neville and Rich Swann and T.J. Perkins and all those guys.
Gentleman Jack Gallagher. Yeah. How dare you leave him out?
Mustafa Ali, who I've been impressed with recently. Just taking on those guys, taking on guys his own size, and being able to unleash his full repertoire of moves, and really showing me what Kalisto can do, because that brings back the Kalisto of NXT, which I was a huge fan of.
Oh yeah, he was fun. I mean, he was just jumping all over the place and throwing himself.
Yeah. And I think
it really was a little like chip off the old block of Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and I think that's what they saw in him, and that's what they kind of banked on. And I don't think they should have done that. I think they should just kind of let him feel out his matches, but they didn't. They kind of forced him to get beat up for 10 minutes and then pull out the Salida del Sol and win and then move on.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him to have a real match against somebody, spinning heel kicks and all. And then
I have no fault in that.
Yeah, the last team that we want to talk about, the only tag team that's gone over to Raw, was Heath Slater and Rhino. Have lost a lot of their heat from when they first showed up on SmackDown. Have lost a lot of that luster as a tag team. You still get the He Got Kids chance, but it's not the same. Does this help or hurt their career to be on a roster that's now loaded with other comical characters? And there's a chance the Hardys could be comical. There's a chance that Anderson and Gallows could be comical at times. Enzo and Cass are the comical tag team.
Nothing needs to be said about that, but we all know about them.
Right. So does it help or hurt them that they're getting thrown into a division where they're kind of already is what they are? There's already this guy who has the fans backing.
I see it in one of two ways. It's either going to help them because they can like latch on and do their own thing with that, parameter, like, they can join in on the humor, or this gives them a new chance, a new fresh start. I know Kurt Angle is a big advocate for tag teams. And I know he wants to push the tag team division, which, I'm the tag team aficionado. I love to hear that. So, I was a little surprised that they brought them over. I think they could get a push on Raw. Are we talking tag team champs? Probably not, but I think they could be a really decent mid-card that, look, Slater and Rhino have been around for a long time. They can put younger guys over. They can carry matches. And like I said, they can kind of latch on with some of the humor that the other teams have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that they can have a chance. It depends.
There's room for them on Raw. And Kurt Angle, I know he'll find a way to bring out the best in them.
Hopefully.
I trust him. Listen, I trust him way more than Stephanie.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about the people going to SmackDown. We'll leave out the U.S. Championship picture because that is stipulated on who wins. So And with them saying that, it makes me think that Jericho might have a chance, because him being on SmackDown, it's a 2-hour show. It might be better.
So no Fozzy tour.
He is going on his Fozzy tour, but with him being on SmackDown, I think it opens. If Jericho wins, and then he can immediately turn around and have a match with AJ Styles, and AJ Styles becomes champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
So, that could be a way for Jericho to, once again, put over somebody else, leave for 6 months, come back, and do whatever he wants to later.
I kind of hope not, because, believe it or not, the promo that KO cut on SmackDown,
it was fantastic.
It made me want to get behind him 110% on SmackDown. And Lewis would salivate if he heard that, because I've been kind of wishy-washy with a KO, but him on SmackDown, I think, is... I have to give Vince McMahon A+ on that, because I heard the music and I thought, he really let KO go to SmackDown. Damn.
But again, with that though, when we talk about balance between faces and heels,
you have to balance it with all
I think losing Ambrose as a face, and Cena's going to take time off as a face.
You had to bring some firepower.
Bringing in a huge heel doesn't make sense, because now AJ's heel, Baron Corbin is heel, Dolph Ziggler is heel, and KO is heel all at once. And you can flip AJ pretty easily.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
For the next 3 weeks, there are 4 heels in your big title picture, and there is one face.
Well, Sammy.
Yeah, there's one face.
Oh, yeah.
There is one face, and his name is Sami Zayn.
Can we please just stop the constant Sami Zayn KO matches? It's really starting to take a tear on me.
I want one proper one. That's all I want. I want one good one. I want one that is not going to be the first 15 minutes of a pay-per-view.
I'm kind of done with it by now. We've seen 2 years of it, so
they've never actually wrestled. They have wrestled twice in the years they've been here, and it's always been a mid-card match that takes 10 minutes out of a show.
Or it's one of them beating the shit out of the other, or
right.
The other. I don't know.
If this is a match or an opportunity for you to give me a 30-minute Sami Zayn KO Ring of Honor style match,
then I'm in.
Then I'm absolutely in. And I think, like you say that you trust Kurt Angle to do the right thing with the tag teams on Raw. If there is any man that I trust to do the right thing with 2 independent wrestling stars on SmackDown,
it's
Daniel Bryan, who wrestled the 2 of them repeatedly for years.
Yeah.
So I trust him with my entire life to make sure that when that match does happen, it won't be immediately, but when it does, it'll be a godsend.
I agree.
So some people, we talk about Sami Zayn, we talk about Kevin Owens, Charlotte. We talk about Charlotte coming over. I don't
know if we said Sami Zayn going to SmackDown. It absolutely had to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was again another one like The Miz.
Yeah,
we talked about for months. We all saw it coming.
Yeah.
Charlotte going to SmackDown makes that women's division just as strong after it loses Nikki to marital things.
Nikki and Bliss and Mickey
James.
Mickey,
But
yeah.
when you come in, you add in, you're like, oh man, we lost Bliss, we lost Mickey James, we lost Nikki Bella, and it's like, oh wait, we have Charlotte Flair. All right, I quit. I'm done. That's just
Yeah, I mean,
we're good.
it gives them a strong heel with, and I'm kind of curious to see if they have Tamina as a face or a heel. I would guess they'd have her as a heel.
Yeah, I mean,
Just because you have Becky and Naomi as the
but
faces, so
the best work that she ever did recently was as an enforcer. So I don't know.
yeah, just kind of going to the beat of her own drum.
Yeah, she was kind of an enforcer for a while, so like,
I'm
maybe
fine with that.
depends on what she wants to do. Rusev and Lana coming over to SmackDown is big for their mid card. I know Rusev could technically challenge for a world title in the future, but
He could. I think he should on SmackDown. Actually,
as of right now, he is a excellent United States champion, and that's where that belt's gonna be. So I'm excited.
I really do believe, and crucify me for saying this, but I probably shouldn't say that over Easter.
God is watching.
I really think Rusev, he's a great wrestler, and he's really starting to improve on the mic. I really do think that he deserves a world title push on SmackDown.
Well, they also advertised Rusev and Lana as separate entities. So maybe Lana's finally getting her her women's career started, which is another person you could throw into that SmackDown women's roster.
I hope she drops
have her fight Carmella. Just have her fight Carmella.
Oh, I'll watch that for
hours.
Too. Yeah.
I'll watch that for hours. So I'm okay with that. You had Sin Cara coming over, the guy who's gonna get beat up a few times, a jobber, great worker though, so I'm okay with it. Jinder Mahal, another guy, great worker, just really improved his physique since like the 3-man band days. Really,
by far,
looks a legitimate wrestler now.
I think he deserves. Maybe not a world title push, but maybe a U.S. championship push.
Definitely a mid-card push. Maybe if he could form a tag team with somebody.
No, I you know what? In my opinion, I think he is good as himself right now. I think let him go for the U.S. belt or a lesser belt or just get a push, period. I think him by himself is actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah,
at least for me.
It's been refreshing, but if there's ever a time where you look back and you think about like not the later days of 3-man band when they had Hornswoggle and all that other crap, but when they won their tag team championships, the only time they did, him and Drew McIntyre were an in-sync tag team. There were two amazing tag team wrestlers that were stuck in a crappy gimmick.
Drew McIntyre's back in NXT. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I mean, if there's ever a chance for Jinder to get in a tag team again and make, just add another tag team into the mix.
There you go. A 2-man band. We started it.
Yeah, if they want to throw together, well, I don't want them to bring back that song because then Heath will come back. But we're just gonna whatever he wants to do. Maybe he wants to team up with. Maybe they, fix the bridge between him and Rusev and they team up to take the SmackDown tag team titles. I'm not mad about that either. Throw another heel tag team in that
the
mix.
Most handsome tag team. There you go, WWE. Just give you a gimmick.
Don't do that. They're not going to pay us for this. So, and the Shining Stars going over to SmackDown too. Another team.
Yeah, it's
not gonna win their titles, but someone to throw in there when Shane comes out and says, "Hey, we're having a fatal 4-way tag team match." Yeah. Now you have someone to put in that spot. And that's okay by me because, not everyone's going to win titles, but you need people to fight in matches. And as long as they put on a good show, I'm not mad.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. I mean, go back in the 90s and early 2000s, the one thing that made WWE great, I mean, yeah, they had The Rock, Stone Cold, Cena in the early days, DX, but, they had a strong enough mid-card where, if you got Mr. McMahon came out for the first hour, you had at least had a couple good matches afterwards to bridge the gap between that and the war zone with Austin and The Rock and all them. So them trying to find mid-card guys is not bad. I need good matches for that filler in between them starting and them ending.
Right, and there's very limited matches on SmackDown because there are only 2 hours. And
that's what at least makes it interesting.
Right, so I think with the more tag teams you have, the more creative you can get with your matches.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I think it's more interesting than the typical I'm never against a good tag team match, but I always get so excited when they're like, hey, there's gonna be 6 tag teams in this, I'm just like, cool, more bodies, like just throw them in there.
Yeah, to quote Michael Cole, bodies everywhere.
Exactly.
But yeah.
That's what gets me excited.
So
to
I
watch
mean,
it.
if I could say anything, I think I said this to my buddy at work who's starting to get back into wrestling, almost in the same capacity like you. Like he watched it and I've just started to get him involved with it more. And now he's like, yeah, I watch it every Monday and Tuesday. I was like, see, I got you.
Just tell him to watch Tuesdays. The Mondays are worthless.
Yeah. He doesn't like Raw. I'm trying to get him into NXT, but Wednesdays are his longer days. So I'm like, record it, like something, get it on the network.
Tuesday nights, baby. 205 Live. That's my favorite show.
Yeah, what I said to him was, I'm really, really excited after that shakeup. It's new, it's fresh. And look, I think Kurt Angle's done a great job because I have read that Vince has given him a lot of leeway with Raw. And look at the work Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon have done. They're killing it on SmackDown. So
yeah, and I mean,
it's fun. It's fun again.
We'll come back next week and let everybody know, I guess, what we think of what show is gonna look better. I think this week was a lot of hype and a lot of what's gonna happen.
And I wouldn't be afraid to say that, hey, with the shakeup, Raw could actually be an interesting show.
Raw has potential to be very, very interesting and become that A show once again. But I mean, even if you look at SmackDown, they had a dark match between Dolph Ziggler and Shinsuke Nakamura that you can watch on like YouTube right now. I watched it was the crappiest quality. It was a grainy video and you couldn't hear any of the sounds. I still got chills.
Oh, it's those two in a match together is just oh my God.
SmackDown has just as much potential to be the A show as it has been for the past 5 months.
And the thing is when I was talking to my buddy, I said, go back and think of some of the greatest moments in WWE. A lot of them came from Austin. A lot of them came from The Rock. A lot of them came from, Mr. McMahon, Shane O'Mac, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Ric Flair. But a lot of great moments themselves came from SmackDown. And yeah, look, Raw was the great show. Raw was the war zone, and it was ultimately the one that defeated WCW. But I mean, if you go in YouTube or go on the network and look up some of the greatest moments, I guarantee you, I can almost promise you, at least 8 out of 10 would come from SmackDown.
Absolutely, and that's why it's always been my favorite. That's why
me too. I mean, I watch Raw because look, it's Monday Night Raw. But SmackDown will always have a place in my heart. I mean, you and Lewis both know my favorite wrestler was Edge, and he came from SmackDown. He personified SmackDown. SmackDown started from The Rock. SmackDown was the people's show. So to kind of see it go back to the people's show is just it's a blast from the past.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm excited for what they're going to do in the future, and I'm really excited to see what they're able to do and what potential they're able to squeeze out of every wrestler that has been moved in the past week. But moving on from WWE and that whole thing, we'll have more on it next week, I'm sure.
Definitely.
As more rivalries get ironed out, and we see what the post-payback picture starts to look like. We'll go into baseball. We'll do a little baseball information. So it's been another week. I'll start off right away. The Yankees are 1-2 coming out of last week. Had a rough series with the Rays. Had a short 2-game series with the Orioles. Which we did all right. We split it. We went 1-1, which I wasn't mad about. But now we are playing right currently as we're recording this. The Yankees are playing, and they're looking to sweep the Rays this time around, having won their last 3 after a come from behind victory last night. And I don't know if you saw it, Alex, but just not to toot anyone's horn on the Yankees, but Aaron Judge hit a ball last night at 116 miles per hour back at Jumbo Diaz's head.
Yeah, that was
so
how do I put it? That's like, oh my God, I don't know how to put it. I mean, that was a laser beam right at his head.
And I'm happy that Jumbo Diaz got out of the way and it didn't hit him, and I want the best for him. But if that's what I can expect from Aaron Judge, to hit a 116-mile-per-hour laser beam in center field,
yeah, you got it made.
Then his very next at bat, put it into the netting in dead center of Yankee Stadium, I'm good. Like, you can say all you want that Yankee Stadium is a little kid's park and you can put it over any of the walls, but you want to hit any ball to dead center in any park ever.
It's hard.
Major League Baseball is difficult to do, and the fact is, as a righty going up against a relief pitcher who came in to face you, and you're just like, nah, I got this,
Well,
and lift it over the
yeah, I mean,
fence.
the thing is, when you think about baseball, if you swing and you hit, if you're a righty and you hit it to left field, if you're a lefty and you hit it to right field, you tend to be early. If you pull it the opposite way, you tend to be late. And, when you hit it dead center, that takes power.
Yeah.
I mean, that just takes power. And, I mean, look, I've been very impressed with what you guys have done. I mean, getting away from going for older guys and kind of blowing up your farm to get, the stopgap players pitching and hitting to rebuild the farm. And, I mean, Judge is at the top, man. I mean, he looks really freaking good.
Yeah, in the past week, I think he's at 3 home runs in the past week.
Yeah.
He's excited to me. Gary Sanchez did pull his bicep, but they have him on the 10-day DL, so they said 2 weeks and he'll be back. He swung a little bit too hard on one of the balls. Greg Bird is back in the batting cages. Tweaked his knee, and he should be fine now. They're saying he was on the bench last night, and I believe he's starting tonight.
And I saw a stat today that Gleyber Torres is hitting .413 in the minors right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
Gleyber is hitting almost 500 in Double-A ball. And then Didi Gregorius is also on the bench for tonight, but not starting. He's a bench player you can have. So that tells me that by the next series, Didi is at shortstop, Bird is at first base, and all I'm missing is my catcher, and then I have my full team finally. And if we can win with half a team, I'm excited to see what we can do with a full team. So I don't have to bat Chris Carter out of the fly ball anymore. Great guy. He had an RBI yesterday. But, ooh, man, is he an all-or-nothing hitter.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know what that's like. But, I mean, you guys have done – look, everybody hates the Yankees because you're the evil empire of 27 championships, but you got to tip your cap to them once in a while. I mean, they rebuilt their farm, and they got a lot of really nice, young, up-and-coming players. And knowing the Yankees, they'll be a force within a year or two.
Right, and I'm hoping that the young up-and-coming players can parlay themselves into the Yankees getting not all the free agents in the world, but maybe 1 or 2.
When you talk about when you look at the free agent class of 2018 and 2019, I'd be shocked if the Yankees didn't walk out with one of the big names, pitcher, batter, whatever.
Yeah, just to be like, hey, listen, we got all this behind you. You won't have to do that much.
I mean, that's exactly like when I argue with Lewis or anybody else with the Phillies. I mean, if you have young players that are playing well and you come around to a time where Machado and Harper are on the free agent market, you turn to them and say, hey, look, we have young players that are proving themselves. You can attach to this nucleus and you can really take off.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a young cast. So
moving on to the Phillies. The Phillies are 5-4 right now.
No, 3-4.
Hey, that's not what the official
3-6. Excuse me.
They're 3-6. Yes. They're 3-6, but surprising showings against the Mets. It wasn't like it was you just blew it up and it wasn't a blowout. You guys hung tough. You were in there. There was one rough game where Yoenis Cespedes kind of did his thing that he gets paid to do. But, besides that, you guys have been showing that you are not a contender, but a team that cannot be passed over, kind of like you have been in the past. What has excited you in the past week? What have you seen that said, like, oh, yeah, no, we can keep
one thing that excited me was they took 2 or 3 from the Nationals.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And they have a series with the Nats starting tomorrow. They have an off night tonight. But the hitting has really been a key. I mean, Odubel Herrera has been tearing it up. Cesar Hernandez has been tearing it up. Like I've been trying to say, this is a season of optimism. You have to look at a lot of these young players and see what the bats can do. Because they're going to have a lot of money in 2018 and 2019 where they could spend for, the Bryce Harpers, Andrew McCutchens, Manny Machado's out there if they really want to. And Matt Klentak, the GM, has said that, there will come a time where they want to do that. But right now they need to discover who can stick around for the long haul. I've just been really excited at seeing that, like you said, they're not the team that can be looked at as a weakling anymore. They're hanging around with the bigger boys in the NL East. To take 2 or 3 from the Nats, if you said that to me a year or 2 ago, I would have laughed at you. Now, they got swept by the Mets, but look, the Mets are a good team. They have a great rotation. They have a great lineup, so they didn't get killed. I mean, they hung around in the games, they battled back, but you know, the hitting I think has really, really improved. I mean, they're more patient this year. They're getting a lot more extra base hits. So, you can't always win on the long ball. You have to win at small ball too. And I think that's what I've been most impressed about with them so far.
All right, yeah. So we'll attempt to cover the Mets now, and the thing I'll say with the Mets without Lewis being here is I've been impressed by their ability to use the long ball so far, but not only that, just to spread the hitting around. Believe in the past 2 or 3 years, it's been on Yoenis Cespedes' shoulders, and it's been on guys like Curtis Granderson and David Wright and Jose Reyes just to get on base. And then once Yoenis gets up, hopefully he can unload them, or everyone strikes out behind him. I feel like this year it's been a lot better.
They look like a much more balanced team this year.
Right, with Jay Bruce getting involved in the RBIs, and with Yoenis Cespedes, and guys like Neil Walker and Asdrubal Cabrera also adding in their RBIs. Yep. Not extreme numbers, but just one or two here and there. I think it makes them a much more dangerous team when you can not pitch around one person and then be able to get the rest of them out on ground balls.
That falls apart, right?
Yeah,
right.
So I think that's going to help them in the long run, and I think if their pitching stays healthy, Zach Wheeler looked pretty trash in his first start, I'll be honest, and then in his second start, I believe last night, looked really good. Looked like the Zach Wheeler we've been hearing about for years from the Mets, that this kid is good. He has had injury issues. And I think if everyone can stay healthy and they can maintain their offensive production to more than just 2 guys or 3 guys, and they can spread out to 4, 5, maybe even 6 people that are going to get your RBIs, I think they can definitely contend. Do I think they could beat the Indians, or they can beat the Cubs or anyone like that? I don't know, just because those 2 teams are so set up. But I definitely believe they could challenge the Nationals to take that division, and they can challenge.
I have them winning.
Whoever comes out of the wild card. With the Nats, it's the Nats are a very touchy.
Me, I'm not.
But the Nats,
big on the Nats.
The Nats are also a really team to look at this year, because before it's been get on base. Bryce Harper is going to unload you. Like that's been the strategy.
They did do a good job of trying to put more around him, but
yeah, and I mean,
if I look at the overall makeup of the 2, I like the Mets more in a wild card or in a clutch situation, given that they have 4 stud pitchers and a much more balanced lineup.
But I think when you look at, the national strengths come from their bullpen, which has never been a slump, but is much better this year. They finally have a center fielder who can play well and hit well.
Eaton was a big pickup.
And they always in the past they've had Denard Span, who could run but couldn't really hit and was not the best fielder. He was more just for speed.
Right.
So now you have a guy who can hit leadoff, get on base, and make those plays happen. Rendon is back now. He is injury free. He has been playing well. Bringing in Matt Wieters always helps. That's a guy who did a lot of production.
He's got to stay healthy, though. He's got to stay healthy this year.
If he stays healthy, and he doesn't even have to produce his numbers in Baltimore. If he does half of what he did in Baltimore and stays healthy,
it's a big step for them. Yeah, but
it's a big step.
I really good too. Yeah, I really, as much as it kills me to say, I really like the makeup of the Mets team this year compared to the Nats. If the Mets can stay healthy,
both of those teams need to stay healthy. That's the key.
Oh, well, anybody has to stay healthy.
Well, but I think if you look at other teams like the Cubs, if the Cubs lose 1 or 2 people, I wouldn't be that worried, honestly, because there's so many people they could just throw into the hole, or that could step up and fill that production.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If the Mets lose, I don't know. I'm trying to think of who. Like, if Yoenis Cespedes, well, like not just Cespedes, but if the Mets lost Neil Walker. Yes, you don't think like, oh my God, losing Neil Walker is not going to kill that team, but it just might because of the production he brings. Because then more weight falls onto the limited shoulders you have, or if the Nats lose Adam Eaton, production falls on somebody else.
Yeah, case in point is look at the 08, well, not even 08, The 2012 Phillies, I mean, when they lost Howard and Utley, that whole team just completely crumbled because we had nobody behind them. So, no, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think those teams need to stay healthy more than anybody else in the National League for them to be the title contenders that everyone thinks of them as.
Yeah.
So we'll move forward to the NFL draft. If this is your first podcast you're listening to, leading up to the NFL draft, we're doing 2 divisions a night. We're going to do the AFC tonight. We're doing the AFC North and the NFC North. So we'll start out with the AFC North, right? Because they have the first pick of the draft.
That they do.
Right off the top of the bat, the Browns. Birch, I think it's kind of best player available, but I'll ask you, where do the Browns need to go?
It's funny. I read an article the other day, and it picked up a lot of steam that suggested the Browns might be considering Trubisky at number 1 to finally solve their quarterback position. Now, I think that's a really, 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 really ballsy move. I really like Trubisky. I think he could be a great quarterback in the league. I just think that with the problems that the Browns have, quarterback is obviously the number 1 position. I think you and I would agree in football. It by far is the most coveted position in the game. But when you're the Browns and you need as much help as they do, if you pass on a world-renowned talent like Myles Garrett, I think they would regret that decision more than they have regretted not having a quarterback for the last 20 years. If they take the quarterback and Trubisky pans out, that's great. They finally, after 22 years, they finally get a quarterback. But I just really hope for the sake of that team, they get a bona fide pass rusher, a freak athlete like Garrett. You pair him up with Jamie Collins on that defense, and man, could they create a lot of havoc.
Yeah, I think when you have the number 1 pick and they have another first-round pick at 12, I think you can use that 12th pick to get your quarterback, whether that's
Trubisky should be there at
Watson,
12.
You can get Kaiser, you can get any of those guys at 12 as well. I think when you're the number 1 pick, you have to pick the best athlete available and the guy who's going to make the most noise. That's like if you were an NBA team going into and you have the first pick of the NBA draft and you decided to pass up on someone that has the skill level of LeBron James because you already have a small forward. You know what I mean? Like it's a dumb move. Take the best athlete, and the best athlete to me is Myles Garrett. And if you can, like you said, pair him up with Jamie Collins, I'm terrified of you. Straight up, I don't want to play.
You look at Myles Garrett, that's it. Myles Garrett's a guy who easily can average 15, 16, 17 sacks a year. Just look at him. And have 12 picks in this draft, and I think they have 12 again next year. That's 24 players they can get in 2 drafts that could really, really ignite this team.
Right, and with your 12, go get that quarterback you've been longing for. Or hey, maybe you really like a guy who's predicted to go in the 3rd round. You're at 12. Corey Davis is still on the board. OJ Howard is still on the board. Fix your other holes, and you can still get that guy.
They don't have to get a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. I think they should go out and build their defense, continue to build their defense, and maybe pick up a receiver or 2. And then maybe
go out and build your team. And I think they're probably the only team in this draft besides maybe the Titans that can go out and do that because they're the only 2 teams that have that plethora of picks to just be we'll blow it away. We don't care.
I could see them trying to take – if I'm them, I would take a Chad Kelly in the 6th round. And if he comes back healthy, they're set because you know what? You've spent the first 5 rounds, 8 or 9 draft picks,
getting freak athletes,
putting a team around him.
Yeah, getting absolute freak athletes. And now what's
and look, their coach Hugh Jackson is a great quarterbacks coach. So really, if you just get somebody who can throw the ball 50 yards down the field, they're fine.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next team. Their rivals in Cincinnati. They're at number 9. The Bengals had a rough season last year. Have been
very rough.
They've been one and done in the playoffs for a long time. They had a rough season last year where it finally looks like the wheels have come off the bus. Where do they go from here? They're at number 9. They're a top 10 pick. You could still get a free athlete at the top 10 of an NFL draft. Where do they go to try to fix this team, and do they try to save this team from going completely into the Browns territory where they got to blow it all up?
They have 2 good running backs with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. I'm I think them losing Marvin Jones and Sanu killed them because a lot of pressure fell on AJ Green. And while he is a top 5 receiver, even the best of them can't do what they do the entire game. They need help. And even Tyler Eifert gets double covered, and he's not quick enough to break a lot of double teams. My thought is they should at least try to get Andy Dalton more weapons, but their defense looked horrible last year. So I think they have to go linebacker, which leads me to Reuben Foster at 9. I think they could go pass rush, but they have to do something to beef up that front 7 because that front 7 last year was just awful.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My gut feeling goes with a front 7, but I was reading an article this morning that was gaining some traction, like an unpopular opinion, a dark horse pick that they could take at 9. If you look back at when Andy Dalton first came into the Bengals, when they were really dangerous, they ran a 2 tight end system, kind of like the Patriots. They had Eifert and Jermaine Gresham at the time. So
I know where you're going with this.
There is traction that they will be picking up. They could pick up OJ Howard at 9 to run that 2 tight end set again. Like you said, give him more weapons. They did lose a lot of people on the offense. Give him a chance to find new weapons in this draft. But I agree with you. Popular opinion, and if I was the GM of the Bengals, I'm going defense because that was kind of their bread and butter for a long time. Dunlap, Geno Atkins. And just to see that front 7 last year get torn apart by joke teams get torn apart, hurt me as someone who likes to watch defensive football. So I think, you got to go linebacker, whether that's Reuben Foster or you're going with Derek Barnett to get pass rush or Jonathan Allen, whoever you're going with.
Yeah, they got to improve that defense.
Put your front 7 together, and then you can worry about how many weapons Andy Dalton needs.
Yeah. And there's plenty of receivers in this draft, and this draft is very tight end heavy too that they could add. I mean, they might not get OJ Howard, but the thing about the AFC North, I mean, minus Cleveland for the last couple of years, but even still, I mean, they still had a decent defense. Look at Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. They all have top 10 defenses. Cincinnati's last year was god awful. I mean,
it was trash.
A lot of it had to do with injuries, but a lot of it did have to do with players just regressing horribly, and they let go of Maluga. So I think they absolutely, as much as it would kill me, because I would love if the Eagles could pick up Reuben Foster, I think they have to go linebacker without a doubt. They have to get a force back in the linebacker position.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They have to get someone back there to help out, to make that defense great, make that defense what it was
when they were defense great again.
Yeah, to make that defense what it was when they were going to win playoff games. So move on to the next team, Baltimore at 16.
Yes, I was hoping you'd say Baltimore.
They're in the middle round. What do they need? Because if you asked me at the beginning of last year what Baltimore needs to be good again and to be that Super Bowl team that we all know and loved, yes. I would say they need to draft a time machine. Because there was no way that they were going to do that ever again in the next few years. And now you're asking me this now. I feel like they're 1, 2, 3 pieces away from doing it again, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah. And no, I don't disagree with you. And actually, I was really surprised that they traded Timmy Jernigan to my team. I'm not going to complain about it.
No, don't complain, but I'm surprised they did it. But I think Harbaugh is such a defensive mastermind for all the crap he gets. Is such a defensive mastermind that he's held that defense together, that he's made them dangerous. Getting Eric Weddle makes that defense 10 times more dangerous.
They get Tony Jefferson to go with them. I mean,
yeah. So at 16, I have them going receiver because they did lose a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't care who you are. Steve Smith goes in.
No, that's not debatable. I'm sorry.
They lost him, so I'm going wide receiver. And at 16, I'm thinking Corey Davis or John Ross, whoever it is fine by me. You can go get them. Just get a receiver. Give Joe Flacco his weapons. And if you can make that defense hold a team to 14, 17 points a game, and you have Flacco has the weapons to score touchdowns, he absolutely will. Is he a top 10 quarterback? No. But he is a guy who can put the ball in a receiver's hands and get production. And he is someone who can win you games.
I was really hoping you'd bring them up because this team, believe it or not, is actually a team that I've been really intrigued with this offseason. Their GM, Ozzie Newsome, it seems every year might lose a player or two, but kills it in free agency and kills it in the draft. And he always keeps the Ravens in the playoff conversation. I cannot agree with you more. When you look at Baltimore in that 2012 playoff team, yeah, they had, Ray Lewis was on the downhill. Ed Reed was on the downhill, and, they went out with a bang. But they have a good defense now. I think it was like 11th or 12th last year. Don't quote me. I don't know off the top of my head. But the one thing that Flacco has been missing was a guy like Torrey Smith in 2012 who could take the top off of defense. At 16, if he's on the board, I wouldn't hesitate. I'd get John Ross. I would get a guy who can run a 4.2 40, who Joe Flacco, with the arm that he has, can just heave it down the field, and that opens up the field for their four tight ends that they have. And guys like Brashad Perriman and Mike Wallace and, their running backs out of the backfield.
Run a slant and get open.
Absolutely. John Ross has to be the pick for them. Get that speedy receiver that Flacco can just sit back, cook a barbecue, have a nice little ribeye steak and just, heave it up. John Ross, I think, would be the perfect fit for the Ravens at 16.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I think that even though some people say oh, you need to fix the hole that Jerrigan leaves, not really, because you think you can get anyone to fill that hole at this point in that defense.
They can draft defense later. You need to get a speedy receiver for Flacco's arm.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the last team in that division. Coming in at pick 30, the Steelers. What do they need? Because they need, I think, besides the killer bees, which have gotten them into the playoffs for the past 2 years, you need a lot. If you could ignore the rest of the team, because those three guys are putting up 35, 40 points a game. There's a lot of holes in that team that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah, they could go receiver because nobody knows what the hell's up with Martavis Bryant, and really besides Antonio, Sammy Coates was decent. They lost Marcus Wheaton, so I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to trade up and maybe get an impact pass rusher or a secondary piece. I think when you think about the Steelers, you always think about defense, but that's kind of done a 180 the last couple of years with the offense. I think they should go pass rush. Bud Dupree kind of came on strong towards the end of the year and really showed he could be a force. James Harrison's never going to freaking retire. I hope he doesn't because he's a good player. Stephon Tuitt and Hargrave, they really have strengthened their line. Their secondary hasn't been awful, but they're just a team that is kind of an enigma with this draft. They should go defense, but I think they should go offense with a receiver and try to get Antonio and Ben some help.
Yeah, I mean, for this draft, for me, I've seen a lot of theories thrown around about the Steelers and where they can go, whether that's offense or defense. But if I was the GM of the Steelers, I'm going defense. I don't care. Ben is getting old. Let's not ignore the fact that Ben is getting old.
Yeah, speaking of that, I think this is the draft they need to figure out his replacement.
Yeah, his backup's getting drafted in this. God, I hope so. But he's getting old. He cannot throw up the numbers that we used to win you Super Bowls. He can't do it anymore. There's no way. And you have a great running game. I get it. You have a great receiver. I get it. But you need to also stop the other team from scoring. And for me, that starts with a linebacker core. I know Bud Dupree came in last year and showed everybody, hey, I can lead this linebacker core. And you're right. You're goddamn right. And you're, like you said, Harrison will never retire. That man will never drop dead.
And actually, now that we're talking about the Steelers, I will say rest in peace to their chairman, Dan Rooney, behind their 6 Super Bowls. And, we envy him here in Philadelphia because he built up an empire in Pittsburgh. But you hear anything about the Steelers, that man was well respected. So, sad news. Sad news today.
Definitely made that stuff happen. And to see him out there on the field, even in his declining condition, still wanting to be on the field on game day,
he will forever be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah.
Yeah. If the Raiders have Al Davis and the Steelers had Rooney.
Steelers always have the Rooneys. Yeah. So, thoughts and prayers to the Rooney family on that.
But you got to go defense for them, and that's the thing.
But yeah, back to that.
They need to bring back that fear that like curtain. You said, not necessarily the curtain, but you need to bring back that fear in the defense, because like you said, the Browns are going to get Myles Garrett. The Ravens are always gonna have a good defense. Maybe not top 10, but definitely in the top half. Cincinnati's gonna try to look to build up their defense. And if Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap are healthy, that scares me. So I think there's a movement to get more defense.
It just goes to Steeler football is bashing the other guy's head in with smash mouth defense. Like,
right.
Yeah, they have a great offense, and I'm not going to take that away from them, but they won 6 Super Bowls off of their defense. They had a couple of miraculous offensive plays, granted, but that team will forever be one of the top defensive-minded teams, in NFL history. And I think maybe they could go receiver, maybe they should, theoretically, because, like I said, you don't know what the hell is going to happen with Martavis Bryant and his issues. But, when you think of Steeler football, you have to think of a constant pass rush and stuffing the run, and that goes to defense.
Yeah, that's for me. It's got to be it's a defense, and more specifically a linebacker. Get someone to put with Dupree.
Well, don't forget they lost Lawrence Timmons in free agency, so they got to fill that middle with Shazier with that 3-4.
Help Shazier, get someone on the other side of Dupree. Whatever you got to do, make that linebacker core solid again. And just whether that's I've seen some drafts have Peppers falling really far to them. I've seen some drafts have them trading up to get another linebacker, or maybe waiting to see if Watt falls all the way down. But just grab somebody at that position wherever you are, just to make sure your linebackers are solid. Because I think in a 3-4, if your linebackers aren't good in a 3-4, you don't win games.
No, I can attest to that. Seeing that here in Philly with a 3-4.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the NFC North. The first team in the NFC North on the draft board, number 3, the Chicago Bears. Cuddy gonna cut all the way home and isn't there anymore.
He's naked on the beach, man.
He might join Tony Romo in retirement soon. At number 3, I gotta say, the Bears go for the defense. Another team won their Super Bowl off defense. Probably should look to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of really nice young pieces. Leonard Floyd came on real strong. Trevathan, Jarrell Freeman, Jonathan Bullard, Eddie Goldman. But their secondary is kind of a bit.
Let's not forget their secondary. Adrian Amos played really well last year in a secondary that was depleted. He was the only man out there, and he played pretty well.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them either go corner, Marshawn Lattimore, or Jamal Adams at safety.
Yeah,
they have to go secondary, I think.
Having them have the 3rd pick, I think they have to go Lattimore. Who else is
get them a corner. Get the because you play in a division with Stephon Diggs, Jordy Nelson, Golden Tate. So I would go get a number 1 shutdown corner, and that's without a doubt that's Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, he is your immediate.
Or Jamal Adams wouldn't be a bad pick to pair up with Amos and have a formidable safety tandem for the next couple years. I think Adams is a playmaker. He has a lot of Eric Berry in him. I don't think you could go wrong with either Lattimore or Adams. I mean, flip a coin if you want to. It's a great spot.
It's Lattimore for me because of who they got in free agency. One of my guys that I like a love of mine when he was a Giant. They got Prince Amukamara in free agency. He's not a 1. He's definitely a 2 or a 3. But he's a veteran who's played on teams where he's been the 1 and he's been the 2, and he knows what you have to do against receivers. He is a Super Bowl champion. He knows what he's doing. To have Lattimore learn beside him, like Jalen Ramsey did this year, what doesn't sound like a bad idea to me.
No, I can't disagree with it.
You look at the success that Jalen Ramsey got to have because he had Prince Amukamara next to him and Davon House and all those other guys. I think it only makes sense for the Bears to get Lattimore and sit down with Amukamara and be like, hey, listen, we saw you do it with Ramsey. Can you do it again here?
Yeah, and that would really, 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 really help the Bears' defense.
Yeah, and I think you could say that with Amos, but Amos has only been there for 2 years. So I think Amos is going to be like, here's all my veteran expertise of the past 2 seasons of football.
Yeah.
But Amukamara has, I think, 6 or 7 under his belt. I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah.
If you
I I heard, when the Eagles signed Alshon, our local radio station had a guy from Chicago on who blasted the Bears about the direction. I see a good direction. I'm curious to see what Glennon does for them. Jeremy Langford killed it last year. I'm sorry, Jordan Howard killed it last year for them. Yeah, they had questions at wide receiver, but they have a nice offensive line. It does need some work. They have a nice up-and-coming defense. See what you got in Glennon, and you have this draft to continue to add talent. So I like the direction they're going with.
Yeah, no, I think that the direction they're going to be in
they're not going to be a playoff team this year, but
in 2 to 3 years, if you draft well, you could have an elite defense, and if Glennon plays the way that he played in that first year in Tampa Bay, you could be pretty all right. You could be.
They're easily a 9-7, 10-16 with that.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next team. It would be the Vikings, but they don't have a pick because they traded theirs away for Sam Bradford, like idiots.
Thank you, Minnesota, for that. Sam Bradford gets me the 14th pick in the draft. God, I love him.
But I'll give you this. I'll ask this. Do you see Minnesota trading back into the round because they think that maybe that there's rumors now that Teddy is done?
That's a shame. That's really a shame. It is.
But if he is done, is this a place where you trade up to
here's the thing.
Early 20s, a late teens pick to grab that last quarterback, whoever it is, whether it's Kaiser, Watson, Trubinsky. You wait till the later rounds to grab guys coming off injury. But do you trade back in because you're like, God damn it, we need our quarterback?
Here's the thing. Minnesota last year started 5-0 with Bradford.
And then went 11-5.
Yeah, well, no, they went 7-9.
Yeah, okay. They won 2 games after the first 5 weeks.
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
But here's the thing. They had AP when they were 5-0 before he went down. They had an offensive line. Yeah, they had an offensive line that actually was playing well, but then the wheels fell off. And they have a really, really good defense, a defense that I really like. The thing with the Vikings is Bradford actually can be a playoff quarterback. Okay, Philly fans gave the bad rap.
Wait, please. I want you to get the Rams GM on the phone, and I want you to tell that to him and be like, "Look, Sam Bradford's a playoff caliber quarterback," and he'll laugh at you.
No. I'm going to give you a rationale why. If I'm the Vikings, don't trade back into the first round. Stick with Bradford. Build him an offensive line. They got Latavius Murray. They have Matt Asiata, who's a solid backup. Draft him a freaking line. Protect him. They have Stephon Diggs. Adam Thielen actually had a solid year last year. Laquan Treadwell needs to show up, but he's a very talented receiver, and they have a good tight end in Kyle Rudolph. They have a good defense that they can continue to add to in the back end of the draft. Just please, I do like the Vikings. I can't say anything bad about the Vikings. Bradford played well last year. He didn't play bad. His offensive line was atrocious. It was worse than it was in Philly. If they can just draft 2 or 3 linemen, and they have Latavius Murray, they can at least make noise for a wild card spot. Yeah, the news of Teddy maybe being done sucks because I thought he was going to be a really good quarterback in the league. And Sam Bradford's not going to be a Hall of Famer.
He was. Teddy Bridgewater was looking to was slowly improving every year. I think it was like
he was.
He went 7-9, and then 9-7, and then it was like he was predicted with the strength of schedule to go like 11-5. So like he was predicted to go really well, and then kind of all the wheels came off. So if this is the end for him, it sucks because I was a huge fan of his. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a chance to.
Yeah, I don't think that Bradford is bad. He just needs the supporting cast of a line and a solid run game, and he'll get the job done. He's not going to put up gaudy numbers like Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, or Luck, but he'll give you at least 18 to 20 throws a game, maybe 2 touchdowns for 200 yards. Run the ball and play defense. That's all the Vikings have to do, but they've got to draft offensive line. I don't know how else to put it.
All right, so we'll go to number 21 on the first round draft board, the Lions, the team who surprised the hell out of me.
Matthew Stafford, man.
I pegged them for absolute trash this year. Because Matthew
Stafford
I've never been his biggest proponent. I've never been his biggest supporter. I think after losing Megatron, I thought this is it. This is the end of it. And then they lose Amir Abdullah very early on in the season, forcing Theo Riddick to be forced into big running time. So coming off a successful season where you only had, really Golden Tate stepping up, Theo Riddick stepping up in the pass game out of the backfield, Jones coming out, really stepping up. Where do they go from here? Do they try to build that offense that almost came out of nowhere, or do they look at the defense and say, our offense is doing well, we need to make sure the other side of the ball works well too?
Well, if you look at last year, their offensive line was good, but they went out and blew the roof off with adding TJ Lang and Rick Wagner to the right side of their line. Now their line looks almost unbreakable. So A-plus job for the Lions for protecting Stafford. Their receiving core, I actually thought opposite of you. I thought them losing Megatron would help them, because when you look at the Lions when they had Megatron, they would only throw to him, and they kind of ignored a lot of the other receivers, so it allowed Stafford to really spread the ball around, which I think brought out the best in him. The Lions are just that team that they're never going to have a Barry Sanders again. They can have a running back by committee, and they make it work. Zach Zenner, Theo Riddick, Abdullah when he's healthy. For me, at least, I think Detroit has to get another pass rusher to go with Ezekiel Ansah. He's not the kind of guy that's going to get it done completely by himself. They have a good secondary, but I think if the Lions are going to take that leap forward to winning a playoff game or two, they've got to add another pass rusher.
All right. I'm looking opposite of you. I'm not going pass rusher. I'm going run stop. The Eagles didn't take their middle linebacker last year. DeAndre Levy has not been playing his elite level like he has in the past. He got cut too. Yeah. So now you're looking at almost a linebacker less team. So I'm looking linebacker again, kind of like what I did with the Steelers. Looking for a linebacker. Yes, you did have Ezekiel Ansah, and yes, he is very, very good. But I think, and he does need help. He does need someone to kind of bring the pressure with him. But if you looked at where the Lions got beat up on the defensive side of the ball last year, it wasn't in the passing game. It was in the fact that they would run on the first two downs, forcing the defense to come up and then go over their heads on third down. So for me, it's got a linebacker, and it's best linebacker available. You're at 21.
They could easily get a TJ Watt, Hassan. I don't know if they get Hassan Reddick, but Zach Cunningham might be there. So I can see your logic behind linebacker. Yeah, I'm not totally against that for them.
Best linebacker available. Go get a linebacker. Throw it back to the days where you had Levy. Where you had all those guys. When the Lions had no D-line but had a linebacker core that was scary. Now you have the opposite. Time to see if you can have both at the same time. You're at 21. You're not going to get a freak athlete. You're going to get a good player, but not, an excelling player. I think you can get a good linebacker to start the rebuild of that linebacker core, so that you can focus on other parts of your team later in the draft. Maybe get that pass rusher in the second or third round. Maybe get that cornerback in the fourth to really help your team out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, build up that front seven.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the last team in that division. At 29, the Green Bay Packers. Everybody has them going defense. I'm going to be the stick in the mud. I'm going running back. I think you need it. Ty Montgomery stepped up in the playoffs, and he said, yeah, I can do this. But he's really not that good. He is not a three-down back, and I think when I think Packers football, I think three-down back, because if you just let it all on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, he can get it done, but you can't win a championship. I think you need someone who's consistent, not 1,000-yard seasons. He doesn't need to blow the roof off the place every time he runs the ball, but you need someone who's going to be consistent, who's going to get you your yards, and on a 3rd and 1 is going to push that pile to get that first down.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Montgomery wasn't terrible. They did sign Christine Michael. I'd like to see them use him more, but I think 29 for them would be a reach for running back. I just think that they have to address their defense. Their defense killed them down the stretch last year, especially their secondary. They had to cut Sam Shields. He didn't stay healthy. Clay Matthews is really starting to regress. Mike Daniels is a stud D lineman. For me, I think they have to either address linebacker or secondary. I think they have to go defense. When you think of the upper echelon teams of the NFC, the Seattles, the Atlantas, Arizona, Dallas, the Giants, those teams can throw. And if the Packers can't stop the throw, then it's just going to be like it was in Atlanta when the Falcons just trounced them in the NFC Championship game. If I'm them at 29, I would consider linebacker, but I think I'd have to go corner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They do need a corner of need, but I just think that in a class that has so deep at defense, get your running back first, and then in your second and third round, grab those guys, and especially then you could fly under the radar. Because I think as a Packers fan, if you grab a cornerback in the first round, you want them to produce so badly that if they don't for any reason, it's going to come back on the team very, very hard.
Well, the problem is them being at 29. Fournette's gone in the top 5. Dalvin Cook
is gone.
He's probably gone, and McCaffrey's probably gone by 29. Yeah. So
McCaffrey's been climbing up higher and higher. They're saying top 10 now. He'll go before.
Yeah, it's possible. So I think them reaching at 29 for like an Alvin Kamara might be a little too much of a stretch, where they could get him in maybe the second or third round. That's definitely feasible. But I think first pick, please go get a number 1 corner, Green Bay.
All right. So we'll move on from NFL to a sport we haven't really talked about on the show ever before, except at the collegiate level. NBA, the playoff picture is coming into. I think it's done now. It's set now. It is set in place now. Because they had I guess the Bulls and Heat are exactly tied in the East, but they have a tiebreaker in statistics.
No, the Heat got. I'm sorry, God, I can't even talk. The Bulls got it. The Heat are out.
Yeah, the Bulls got it because their conference record is better. Even though they both went 41 and 41. So we'll talk about I'll list off the 8 teams from the Eastern Conference. It goes number 1's Boston Celtics, number 2 Cavs, Raptors, Wizards, Hawks, Bucks, Pacers, and Bulls. Birch, I'll ask you just out of the Eastern Conference. Besides the Cavs, obviously.
Nope.
LeBron.
Don't even talk about the Cavs. I'm going to tell you.
A top 3 teams to come at it, like who moves on to the next round, who survives that first round. It's obviously the Cavs. The Cavs beat the snot out of the Pacers.
Oh, they got the Pacers?
Yeah. There's no. Yeah, you can't look at me dead in the eyes and tell me, yeah, Jeff Teague is going to lock down Kyrie Irving.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's a 7-game series. And I'll say this because I think the Cavs looked tired this year. They looked tired. There had to be a reason that they were getting as much rest to LeBron and Love and Kyrie as much as they were. The Pacers look like an energetic team right now. Paul George has been lighting it up. Miles Turner's been lighting it up. Yeah, maybe Jeff Teague's not going to lock down Kyrie, but a couple of years ago when it was Pacers Heat, the Pacers pushed the Heat. I don't think the Pacers can win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7-game. But I will say this right now: the Cavaliers will not be in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. But for just we'll do first round. I think you got to go Celtics over the Bulls. I like the Bulls, and Dwayne Wade to the Bulls has been a good move.
Boston
looks insane. They've been playing out of their shoes. I still think the Cavs over the Pacers. Maybe it's a close series, but I can't get over the fact matchup wise, looking 1-on-1 with each of their players. The star power. Yeah, maybe they are tired, but the star power that Cleveland can turn on in a heartbeat just overwhelms what they have. And off the bench, I mean, if you even if you're like, oh yeah, they're tired, Kyle Korver comes off the bench. Darren Williams.
They really don't have a deep bench. The Pacers bench is okay, but
the Pacers bench is okay, but I think the Cavs bench, if it's not going to win you a game, but it's going to give you that spark plug points. If you're dying for a shot, you can get Korver an open 3. He's not going to miss it.
Yeah. That's a 7-game series, and I guess I'm going to lean towards the Cavs.
and then you're looking at Raptors, Bucks, which is up in the air for me, depending on the play of one guy.
I'll go Raptors, and I know Greek Freak has been a freak lately.
Yeah, no,
but
and that's the play. If the Greek Freak can prove to me that he can take on literally anybody on the Raptors, I give it to him, because he's reminding me a lot of LeBron in that first Warriors Cavs series, where LeBron took on the entire Warriors team and pushed them to the limit. If you can look at me and you can say, yeah, the Greek Freak is gonna take the entire Raptors team to the limit defensively, and then Chris Middleton is just gonna roam the 3-point line.
I say this loosely as a basketball fan, as a big basketball fan. Greek Freak reminds me a lot of Michael Jordan in that he wants the ball, he wants to take over the game, he wants to be the guy.
But
I
think,
love him as a player.
I think unlike the Bulls of old, where you had Michael Jordan, his Scottie Pippen in Chris Middleton is okay with being Scottie Pippen.
Yeah,
but he's okay with it. You know what I mean? He's just like, no, I'll get the ball 3 times a game and I'll hit 3 shots. It's fine. Like, it's not like I need to go to the Trailblazers and make my own name. It's like,
I'm gonna
just fine.
I'm gonna give the nod to the Raptors because they've been in the playoffs the last 3-4 years, and I think that's another 7-game series too.
I'm gonna give the nod to the Bucks, but purely based on the bias of I think the Greek Freak can take over the game. I think Middleton can hit his key shots. I think, just matchup-wise, I don't know who you put on Greg Monroe down in the paint, just because he's such a big body.
Valanciunas.
I think he can body out Valanciunas, and I don't think Serge has the mass to stop him. I like their coaching staff better too. I think Jason Kidd, being a guy who's been to a championship and won one, and he's also lost them at the same time, has a lot of knowledge that he can give to those young players and really get them through it. And I have a good feeling about the Bucks this year to win at least this series and give the Raptors a run for their money.
I could see it. I definitely think it's a 7-game series.
And then we'll go to the last matchup, the Wizards-Hawks. I got to give it to the Wizards. John Wall has been playing on his head this year.
I'm going Wizards.
If you want to say that Russell Westbrook in the West has been playing angry, John Wall is playing angry because I think he thought that he was getting Kevin Durant too. So I think he was the missing third party where he was like, I thought this guy was coming back to DC, and now I'm pissed. And yes, he can't put up the triple doubles that Russell Westbrook can, but to get the Wizards from a lottery pick team to a 49 win team this year,
it's impressive
to the Wizards.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So move over to the West. So it goes. It's pretty obvious. Warriors, Spurs, Rockets, Clippers, Jazz, Thunder, Grizzlies, Blazers.
How about Damian Lillard today saying he's going to take out the Warriors in 6?
I think he's drunk.
That's bold.
He's drunk. I think he's honestly an alcoholic, and I think someone should look into it.
A little extra Bacardi for him.
Yeah. Here's my thing, Damian, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but I hate you anyway. I understand you're a lockdown defender. I get it, man. I get it. You are a lockdown defender, and you are a lights-out scorer, too. So I think you and Steph take each other out. I think CJ McCollum is a balls-to-the-wall player. I think that guy, he is an insane basketball player. I think he takes out Klay Thompson. Damian, want to sit you down like a real nice boy and ask you, who's stopping Kevin Durant?
But see, here's my thing.
Who's stopping Draymond Green?
Just to play devil's advocate, the Warriors have been better without KD this year.
Absolutely.
Like, they've obviously won games with KD. He's a once-in-a-generational talent, but they looked like the old Warriors without him.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a comfort without him. I think they relied too much on their laurels of being the Warriors when they got him. But I think when it comes down to the NBA playoffs, at least for me, it's matchup against matchup. You know?
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that logic.
Blazers cannot contain the forwards of the Warriors.
I'm sorry, Brady. I think that's Warriors in 6.
I apologize to Lillard. I think that he can win a few games. I'm not saying he can't, but having him win in 6.
Yeah, it's Warriors in 6.
Somebody's been hitting some Portland stuff that no one's telling me.
I'm sorry to do this, but the next series, San Antonio, Memphis, I think that's got San Antonio in like 4 or 5.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even gonna say that they're Grizzlies. I'm sorry, Marc Gasol is a great player, but he's not the Marc Gasol.
Kawhi Leonard is unbelievable.
Hey, you know my dark horse on the San Antonio Spurs, whether he has a job or not.
Yeah, I do.
Kyle Anderson is dropping points, baby.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think Spurs 4 or 5. They either sweep them or 5 games.
Yeah, no, the Spurs have too much talent to not win a series.
Yep.
And I think since it's shaping up to be possibly Tony Parker and most likely Manu's last year. I think this is a season where they're going to say
that's why I'm saying they walk out of the West, but people don't want to listen to me, so that's fine.
So look at the next lineup. 2 MVP candidates. I know that you're big on Russell, but you can't discount the fact that James Harden.
I can't. I won't. Like Russell Westbrook.
Rockets Thunder, who walks away with the win in that scenario.
Thunder.
You think the Thunder? I think it's. Honestly, it's interesting for me. I'm going to say it's a 7-game series, and here's why. They're both one-man armies. There's
yes and no.
There's the
Thunder had quality big men with Ganter and Steven Adams.
Yes.
Where the Rockets have better shooting.
Right.
So it's just going to be a battle of who. If the Rockets can't shoot, they're screwed. If the Thunder big men have an off game, they're screwed. So it kind of
comes down to like a college basketball game. If your shooting is on point from the Rockets, if the Rockets shoot, say anything over 45% of their shots go in, they win.
Yeah.
I just think there's no way that you can lock them down. I get it, Oladipo and all those other guys. I just don't think that the Thunder have much defensively on the guard situation.
Just gonna say,
Westbrook.
With how he's played this year, he might not get to the finals, but Russell Westbrook will not go one and done.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I think it's 7, because I think you look at James Harden this year, who's learned to play defense. Someone sat him down and said, "Listen, you got to stop these guys."
Whoever that kind man is, could we hire him in Philly for Jahlil Okafor's absences on defense?
But I think whoever comes out of that game is winning it. Is the possibility I think whoever comes out of the Rockets Thunder series is the Western Conference Finals other team besides the Spurs. I think they're the other team.
It's feasible. It's definitely feasible. Especially if Russell Westbrook balls out like he's been balling out. He's only going to be getting hotter and hotter. So and James Harden, the same thing could be said. So I'm not against that theory.
So we'll go to the last game here. Clippers Jazz. Look, putting all jokes aside, putting all biases aside, I like the Jazz this year. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not.
Stifle Tower has been playing really well. Derek Favors has shown himself as a serviceable 4.
As a former big man, I am really excited to see DeAndre Jordan and Rudy Gobert go at it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see them go at it. And Blake Griffin is definitely a better power forward than Derek Favors is.
Oh, yeah.
But you're looking at the rest of the team around LA. I think if LA had somehow pulled that trade midseason to get Melo, we're talking about a different series. But Gordon Hayward is playing for a contract this year.
He's auditioning.
Yeah, everyone has criticized him since he got that big deal years ago, whether he deserved it or not. And he's been playing in the past few years to saying, yeah, he kind of does. This year he's been playing as, oh yeah, hell yeah, he does.
Oh yeah.
And so this is an opportunity for him to look at Utah and say, I deserve another one, and to look at other teams and say, I deserve another one.
Yeah, I'm going Jazz in 6.
I like him more. George Hill is not like a all-star point guard, but he will get you your points, and he is a defensive player, so he'll not shut down Chris Paul, but he'll stop Chris Paul. There will be a few drives where you see Chris Paul get turned away, and I think that's worth so much. And I think the shooting guard cast for Utah has always been a rotating door, whether it's Alec Burks or it's Rodney Hood or whoever they put in, that depending on the day or how their coach is feeling that hour. Whoever it is, yes. I'm going to say it should be Rodney Hood because of the matchup he's going to go in with JJ Redick. JJ Redick and Rodney Hood, both taught
It's a
by the
Duke
same
overload.
man. It's taught by the same man, and Rodney Hood was a shooting guard at Duke that focused on his defense, and JJ Redick being a shooting guard at Duke who focused on his offense, and Rodney Hood being the guy at Duke who wore JJ's number before it was retired.
Yeah.
So I think that's like almost like a wrestling storyline. Like that's the perfect setup for those two to go at it.
The
and just to see
apprentice meets the master.
Which of Coach K's shooting guard projects have worked out better for him? Both
Yeah.
guys who went to school for 4 years.
I think with that being said, I like the Jazz in 6.
Yeah, I like the Jazz. Maybe not in 6. I think it's in 7. But yeah, I think definitely the Jazz. So move on to the last topic of the night. Stanley Cup playoffs are underway. Round 1 has been going. We had our first games last night as of recording this. The Rangers have won last night. Boston won last night. Pittsburgh won last night. San Jose beat the Oilers. And St. Louis took down the Wild. I'll say it right off the bat, a lot of overtime games last night.
That's fun.
A lot of overtime games last night. So we'll go matchup by matchup just like we did for basketball. Montreal Rangers. Rangers are already up by 1. Who are you saying comes out of that one?
It's tough because you know what, the Rangers look good. And the Habs, they've looked good all year. It's tough. And I'm trying not to be a total Philadelphia moron here and go Canadians, fuck the Rangers. I think the Rangers come out in 7.
See, for me, I can't give a game number or even who wins.
I'm just going off the fly. It's tough because
it's a battle between Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist. Whoever plays better wins. It's not. I think you can match up every other player on those two teams to someone else on the other team. You want to talk about Ryan McDonough, Shea Weber. You know what I mean? Everyone else lines up.
Derek Stepan, Max Pacioretty. I mean,
right. There's been such great play coming from both teams.
It's tough. That's a 7-game series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 7-game series, but it comes down to who plays better. And in round 1,
it's Lundqvist and Carey Price, like you said.
In round 1, it went to Lundqvist.
Who breaks first?
And I hope Price comes back tomorrow night and says, nah. This is my house. Like, I'm doing it here. And you were playing at home too. I do it my way here. And he has a shutout in return.
I hope so too. I'd like the Rangers not to win, but they looked good. I mean, hey, they shut out the Habs.
That's true. Move on to the next one.
Yep.
Ottawa against Boston. Now, I'll say it right off the bat. I love Ottawa. I think this year they've really impressed me. Bobby Ryan has been playing really well. Craig Anderson has shocked me.
Yeah, he has shocked me too.
As a goaltender, I like Boston. I'm sorry. This is it. Tuukka Rask has always been
I agree.
That drives me insane as someone who wants to score.
You know who else has really surprised me is Brad Marchand. He's really come alive this year.
And you look at that team, Boston has lost so much.
They really have been, I looked at their 20 when we beat them in 2010.
They lose Sagan.
Krejci.
They lose Krejci. They lose Lucic this year. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and just the amount that they've lost.
And they fired their head coach.
Yeah, to play well still. And this is seemingly Chara's last year. This is it.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So kind of like what we said about Manu Ginobili and the Spurs, I think Boston gets angry and they want to have one last chance for Chara. I think they take out Ottawa. They've already won the first game. I think they win in 5. I think they take
I'd say 6, but I think they do take it.
I think they win in 5. I think that they put so many pucks on net in front of Anderson that a few trickle by, and Tuukka Rask plays like Tuukka Rask played when they faced the Blackhawks a few years ago.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. But I do think the Senators will go down fighting.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think I think every game will be more of a fight. But I still think Boston wins the majority of them right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we'll move to the next one. Capitals, Leafs, Capitals. I love the Leafs. I love them so much. I think it's a Cinderella story for the ages.
It's 2-2 right now. Yeah.
It's a Cinderella story because Austin Matthews literally came in and turned that whole team around.
You know what? The Capitals. should win, but the Capitals should win every series with the roster that they have. I love the injection of youth and energy that Austin Matthews has brought to the Leafs.
Well, not just Austin Matthews. Let's talk about Austin Matthews, Mitchell Marner.
Excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if the Leafs win the series, but I'm gonna pick the Capitals.
Yeah, no, I'm picking the Capitals.
I'll say it like that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Leafs pulled the upset, but I'll pick Washington to win.
I think the difference between this year's Washington and last year's Washington, Holtby has played 10 times better this year, and Shattenkirk.
Well, yeah,
Shattenkirk, anytime that you go out and you get yourself a top-tier defenseman instead of a scoring option, because I think a lot of teams, when they go to that trade deadline and they're looking to win more games, they automatically go, we need to score more goals. I think Washington said, we've always tried to do that. Let's see if we can stop more goals from going in. Yeah. And they got Shattenkirk, whom, all rumors have said he's only going to be there for a year, but I think he can win the cup with them this year if he's fully invested in upping his price for free agency this offseason.
No doubt about it.
So then we'll go to the last one. I know who you're going to want to win this series. Pittsburgh, Columbus. I think, honestly, it depends on who Pittsburgh puts in net. If Matt Murray plays, Pittsburgh wins. If Marc-Andre Fleury plays, Columbus wins. Because Columbus is going with Bobrovsky either way.
That's a good way of putting it.
They're going with Bobrovsky either way. Matt Murray is an amazing goalie. Marc-Andre Fleury is not. And I can't, in good conscience, look at all the scorers that Pittsburgh has, and I love Columbus's defense, but I just can't look at all their scorers and say, yeah, they could stop them all. I just can't, in good conscience, do so. It's just too much. You could throw away 50 shots on net, and I think Bobrovsky can stop 46 of them, but 4 goals against you is still pretty heavy.
Yeah, Pittsburgh wins the series. Can we move on?
We'll go over to the West. Smashville against Chicago. Eric Young versus CM Punk. I'm going to go unpopular opinion. I'm going Smashville. I'm saying it right now. I'm saying Smashville in 7. I love Pekka Rinne. I don't love Corey Crawford. I love PK Subban. Hjalmarsson looked old this season. Chicago won a lot of their games based off scoring.
That team coming in here in playoff hockey with the roster that they have, the experience that they have, and the hot streak that they've been on, I'm going Hawks.
I don't know. I gotta say Smashville because I think
and they are my Stanley Cup pick too, so I gotta stay with them.
Smashville has lived up to their name this year. They will beat the hell out of you. It's
1-0 right now, Predators, but when you have Patrick Kane and you have Jonathan Taves and you have the scoring and defense they do, they're going to be okay.
I just believe that Nashville is a team that will walk into your building and beat you up in front of your own fans, and that is something that anyone has been afraid to do to the Blackhawks for a long time. And even if they fail, I think they beat and bloody that team for whoever they face next. I think that's one of those scenarios for Nashville saying, we got the second wild card spot. We are the 8th seed, but we are going to, if we can't beat you, we're going to take away everything you have if you can beat us. I think
that's going to be a good series, but I
would not be surprised if the Blackhawks walk out with 1 or 2 less people than they walked in with. It would not shock me at all.
Well, I hope not. I have $100 on them.
To the next series, St. Louis won the game last night in overtime. But St. Louis, Minnesota, I said it in my trade deadline NHL article on our site. If Minnesota does not win this whole thing, everything they have done this year is worthless.
I agree.
Every trade they have made, every signing they have done is absolutely worthless because they now are going into an offseason where they have to blow it up in order to be under the cap.
Parise and Suter are up, aren't they?
Parise and Suter are up. Dubinic, who's their goalie, is up because he was on a rookie deal. And Granlund's up as well.
So that's a huge.
4 studs are hitting the market at once for your team. Plus, you brought in the contract of Martin Hanzal in this season.
Yeah.
So if Hanzal, if the only thing I think if if some grace of God, someone goes to Hansel and is like, "Listen, you're done. Pack it up. Go home." I think the Minnesota can pull it all together because I think guys like Parise and Suter will take pay cuts because they're older now. But if Hansel doesn't leave and he's like, "No, I'm under contract for another year. I'm sticking around," I I gotta believe somebody's leaving. And if you lose somebody, I feel like Minnesota did themselves a great disservice.
Yeah,
Trying
I
someone
feel
to walk
like
away.
they have to show up, and they will show up. I'm not one of the biggest Blues fans, but believe it or not, actually, my favorite hockey player this year has been Vladimir Tarasenko. That guy's just unreal. Um, but I don't know if he's enough to carry the Blues. I think the Wild will get their act together, though.
I think the Wild get their act together, especially after an overtime loss. I think they're gonna
Yeah,
win.
they'll be okay. I think they at the 7 game series, at least in
But
my
I think,
opinion.
but I'll say it now, and I'll say it again 10 more times. If they don't win it all, God have mercy on Minnesota's soul. I'll
Yeah,
say
maybe they'll
that.
go back to the North Stars.
Did you see? Not to bring up an anecdote, but did you see Parise warmed up in his dad's old uniform the other
He
day?
did. He did.
I cried a little bit. I'll be honest.
The hockey fan in me enjoyed it.
I just cried because he wasn't doing it in my house. We'll go on to the next one. Calgary Flames, who I did not see making the playoffs at the start of the season.
Jonathan Goodrow. God have mercy. That guy's a freaking good hockey player.
And facing the Ducks, who have been a constant Western Conference playoff team.
Yeah, and a constant letdown. I had them the last 2 years, and they let me down.
Yeah, they've been a constant letdown. But
Why don't you just trade? Why don't they should just trade like that Ryan Getzlaf guy and Corey Perry to the Flyers? You know?
They should not do so. They should do no such thing.
They should absolutely.
They should hold that team together and let Wade Simmons go to the new Las Vegas team.
Why him? Couldn't you have chosen Couturier and saved my feelings?
No, because Wayne is the better player. Because Wade Simmons is the better player and the most likely to leave because he's going to want money.
You take that back, or this is a one-man band, sir. I think Calgary's gonna. That's my upset pick here. I think Calgary's gonna upset them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Calgary's got it in 7. I think the Ducks are a 1 seed, and I accept that. But the Ducks are also in the weakest division in hockey.
I'm surprised, though, because Stephen Amell picked the Ducks to win.
The Ducks are in the weakest division in hockey. I'll say it
I
right
know.
then and there.
Well, I thought
they're in the weakest division in hockey. And when you win, you're like, oh, look at us. We got 85 points, and we won our division. 85 points anywhere else gets you a 3 seed.
Yeah. They play in a shit division, but so, I love the Flames this year, man. They're a sneaky team in that West.
Yeah, I just think when you're the Ducks and you play Colorado more than you play any other team in the season, you can't brag.
That's why I'm telling you, they overachieve and let me down, man.
And then the last lineup, Oilers, Sharks. Look, as another situation, I want the Oilers to win so
I do
badly.
too. My God, Connor McDavid is the next great thing.
Connor McDavid is the next Gretzky. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has finally played well. He has finally lived up to what he was promised to be. Nugent-Hopkins is...
It's just the problem is the Sharks are so experienced. Right, I think this is a situation, at least for me, where the Oilers get a taste of the playoffs. They add a couple players in the draft and free agency in the summer, and then come back next year and really make some noise.
No, I'm going to disagree. I say the Oilers in 7, and here's why. The Sharks are old, and when it's a similar matchup to the Capitals and Leafs, but the Capitals aren't as old. You know what I mean? There's Oshie, there's Backstrom, there's other guys who are still in their prime.
Yeah.
You look at, Thornton is old.
He's
not
old
lie
man.
about it. Brett Burns is a veteran. Mark Jones is a young goalie who has been proven. He's proven himself, but he is not elite level yet, and neither is Cam Talbot for the Oilers. I'm not going to say that he's elite level, but I think Connor McDavid, too good of a scorer. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, too good of a scorer. Benoit Pouliot, too good of a scorer. Milan Lucic, too good of a scorer. You want to say, oh, maybe their defense isn't that good. The Oilers went out this offseason and pulled probably the greatest hoodwink trade in NHL history in the past 3 years on the New Jersey Devils. Because Taylor Hall went to the Devils and scored 21 goals, which isn't terrible, but not what it was promised. and Adam Larson has the third highest plus minus in the league.
Yeah,
So
no, they pulled off a good trade there.
they went out and they got someone who has been shutting down scorers in their zone and doing the fights and being the enforcer of a team. Someone who learned how to play defense from guys like Ken Danico and Scott Stevens, and then they got that guy to be the benchmark of their new defense. I got to give it to them. I don't think they get past this round, but I got to give it to the Oilers in 7. I think they're too young and too energetic against too much of a crotchety old team to not win it in 7 games.
I'll go Sharks in 7. I'll take the experience this time.
I think last year they had the experience, but I think, after watching that Penguins series and seeing how much they got skated around sometimes in those games, especially in the third period, I can't say the Oilers can't do this exact same thing.
It's fair enough.
So that'll wrap it up for tonight's show. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in to us for this week. Just in closing, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Tell me how badly you think that I'm dumb about the Oilers. Tell me how much you think that Birch is wrong that the Browns will ever trade out of that number 1 spot because they've been waiting for it for too long. If you need more sports, read our articles on feedmesports.wordpress.com. We're going to put up sports articles there all the time. There's a couple mock drafts you can look at right now if you're in the NFL mood, and I'm sure there's going to be more articles coming out in the coming weeks about the NBA and the NHL as teams start to get eliminated. I could imagine as soon as the mock drafts for NBA go up, there will be a 76ers article.
Oh, without a doubt.
So if please look forward to that. And follow us on our personal Twitter. Follow me at Roman the Rican. Follow my friend Alex Birch at BirchBeer007. And if you want to know how Lewis's kidnapping is going, follow Lewis Schaefer at Schaefer500. Thank you guys for listening, and tune in next week, Thursday night. The podcast goes up on usually a Friday. We just had a long weekend this weekend, so I didn't get it up in time. But it'll be up tomorrow. We will see you guys next time.
All right, buddy. I gotta go. So
yeah, no, I gotta head out. I gotta eat. I haven't eaten all day.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
I'll see you later.
All right.